Hey y'all, welcome to T's Thoughts, where we nourish ourselves through in-depth Bible study, encouragement through the Word, and learning spiritual disciplines. If you would like to be a part of this community, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you can get all the content that I upload every week. Guys, today we are beginning our December Bible study series called Be Kind. Finding kindness in a world that is not so kind. We are going to look at 4 stories in the Bible that demonstrate kindness when the situation was not so kind. So grab your Bibles, get your favorite pens in your journal, and let's study about kindness. So, like I said, we are starting our December Bible study. Thank you guys for giving me grace for November. I pretty much just uploaded shorts in November, but we are back. We are on it full force, okay? So, December, we're studying kindness. We're talking about being kind when the world is not so kind. Everywhere around us, we are seeing unkind things and just outright mean things, and I hope that we will build a community of kind people and that we could spread that kindness out into our influence, into our area of influence, so that we just see more kindness in the world. Okay, so we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna have 4 different stories that we're gonna study from the Bible that is gonna demonstrate kindness. And today we are in 1 Samuel 25. And I would like for you to read the whole chapter, because the whole chapter of 25 gives you the context of what we're going to talk about and see where kindness should have been displayed, kindness was displayed, and how kindness was reciprocated. Okay, so read 1 Samuel 25, but for today, for time's sake, we're going to read verses 18 through 28. Okay, so let's go to 1 Samuel 25 verses 18 through 28, and I'm reading the CSB version, my She Reads Truth Bible. All right, let's go. So we find at verse 18 where it says, Abigail hurried, taking 200 loaves of bread, 2 clay jars of wine, 5 butcher sheep, a bushel of roasted grain, 100 clusters of raisin, 200 cakes of pressed figs, and loaded them on donkeys. Then she said to her male servants, "Go ahead of me. I will be right behind you." But she did not tell her husband Nabal. As she rode the donkey down a mountain pass, hidden from view, she saw David and his men coming toward her and met them. David had just said, "I guarded everything that belonged to this man in the wilderness for nothing. He was not missing anything, yet he paid me back evil for good. May God punish him and do severely if I let any of his males survive until morning." When Abigail saw David, she quickly got off the donkey and knelt down with her face to the ground and paid homage to David. She knelt at his feet and said, "The guilt is mine, my lord, but please let your servant speak to you directly. Listen to the words of your servant. My lord, should you pay no attention to this worthless fool Nabal, for he lives up to his name. His name means stupid, and stupidity is all he knows. I, your servant, didn't see my lord's young men whom you sent. Now, my lord, as surely as the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, it is the Lord who kept you from participating in bloodshed and avenging yourself by your own hand. May your enemies and those who intend to harm my lord be like Nabal. Let this gift your servant has brought to my lord by giving to the young men who follow my lord. Please forgive your servant's offense, for the Lord is certain to make a lasting dynasty for my Lord, because he fights the Lord's battles. Through your life, may evil not be found in you." Okay, so I'm going to paraphrase this, but before we get to the meat of this story, I want to go back to give you a couple of definitions. So, what does it mean to be kind? Right? When we look around us and we see so much meanness and unkind behavior, I wonder if we've lost the capacity to just be kind, right? What about when you go into the store and, you're holding the door for someone that is coming behind you and not just close the door in their face, or giving a smile at the checkout counter when you're in the store, or just pure, genuine kindness. So to be kind means the quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate. And if you look around in the world now, it's you can see where sometimes kindness has lost its sense in the earth. And I think that the world would be a better place if we were just kind, if we would respect each other and simply just love one another like the way Jesus commanded us to love. He told us to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And then he said to love our neighbor as God has loved us. So, in this series, I want to give biblical examples of kindness in hopes that these stories will spark kindness in us, right? As we see in this context where we look at Abigail, Nabal, and David, right? So when we start chapter 25, we read some of it, and we read the part where Abigail responds to action. So this is where we find ourselves. So David had protected Nabal's men and his sheep in the wilderness when David was there. He protected them out of the kindness of his heart. He didn't, want anything in return. He was like, I'm going to look out for these sheep and this man's servants, right? And so he was there. He said, ask your young men, they would tell you. So let my men find favor. Hey, I protected your mans. No harm came to them because we were protecting them, right? And so he comes to find himself. Now we're looking at David's kindness versus Nabal's unkindness, right? So we find where David protected Nabal's flock and his men without obligation. He was just being kind. But then David found himself in Nabal's area, and he's like, hey, this is what I did for you. Can you provide some food for me and my men? And Nabal's response was, no, I don't know you. I don't know what you did. I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to take from what I have to give to you. And so that infuriated David. He's like, I showed you kindness, and in response to that, you showed me evil. Come on. So wouldn't have been the right thing to do was when Nabal should have reciprocated the kindness that was shown to him, but instead he was inconsiderate and he was harsh to David's men. Now, how many times have we been in situations where we were kind to someone, we were generous to someone, and we gave out of ourselves and to just receive a negative response? When it was our time to be in need, when it was your time to be in need, and your response was, well, that's your problem, and no reciprocation of kindness. Now, mind you, one thing we can learn from David was that when we do something for someone else and we're doing it from a place from our heart, yes, we should not expect, right, a reward back. But look what David said. He did it in a kind way. That wasn't his heart. But in his time of need, he's like, well, I did such and such. So it's only right that he with your expectation is that Nabal would have showed kindness to David. And just like in life, when we do something for someone else, our expectation should be, well, I show kindness, you show kindness. Sometimes that's not how things are, because some people are like Nabal and are selfish and just inconsiderate. But what if we take from these two men and their responses? Now, granted, David was about to have his head. David's like, you doing this to me, and I'm about to go in on you. Now, y'all, we don't need to do that. That is the part I want you to learn from David. Now, just because someone doesn't respond back to you and reciprocate your good deed, don't go off and get revenge, okay? But this is what David was going to do. But look at Abigail. Abigail, Nabal's wife, she hears what happens, and she's like, no, we can't do this. We need to be kind to David because he was kind to us. And never mind her husband, who was making some unwise decisions. She's like, he is just like he lives up to his name, which means foolish and stupid. And so, how many know we know some people who live up to their name, and it's like, okay, I know this person is not going to be that way, but I'm going to stand in the gap for him and for this one so that we can be blessed are the peacemaker. They're going to be good because God blesses the peacemaker. Sometimes we got to stand in the gap and be that peacemaker. Right? So this is what Abigail does. Abigail shows kindness to David, and in her action saves her family. When Abigail was told of the events by one of the servants, she hastily went to David with food and supplies. She offered him what her husband did not. She offered him food and kindness. David out there in warring with Saul. His men are hungry. That he's trying to save his life and save his men's life, and all he wanted was some food and some supplies. Could we not go out of our abundance to help this person who helped us? Come on. So she recalled. So then when she goes to David, she offers her supplies, and then she gives David a word of advice, because David was mad. He was about to go in on Nabal and like, look, I'm going to destroy everything he got. But she recalled the way that God had shown favor to David and how God had protected him from his enemies. And she reminded David, don't make a bad decision based off of this person's response to you. She's like, don't make a bad decision. She urged David to forget what Nabal had done and his petty offenses. It was not worth him going in and doing something that was opposite of what God had told him to do. Now, mind you, remember, God was orchestrating David all through the wilderness. When David was trying to run from Saul, fighting to save his life, God was guiding him. But David was about to go off his own thinking, his own way, his emotions, his negative emotions in response to Nabal. And we have all done it. When God is guiding us and he's telling us everything that we have to do, and then somebody offends us and we're about to go off make a decision off our emotion. And then that decision can be wrong and it can be detrimental to your future. So Abigail was trying to save David, and so she gave him a piece of advice. She said, don't do this, because one day you're going to be the king of Israel, and they're going to remember this. So on that day, there would not be remorse or trouble of conscience because of a needless bloodshed. So David restrained himself from revenge because he heeded the advice of Abigail. And so he took that. Now, how do we put that in our context today? Sometimes we have to listen to other people, and they are showing kindness to us, not for their sake and for yours. And so she saved David from making a bad decision. She supplied food and supplies for him, and then she gave him a word of wisdom so that he doesn't make a bad decision. Kindness is helping somebody in order to not make bad choices. And then that person responding to your words of wisdom so that they would not make bad decisions and be remorseful. So we show kindness when we help others. When we see someone going down a bad road, and we show kindness to them by offering them wisdom. Now it's up to them whether they take it. But if they know that you're coming from a pure heart and you're offering this wisdom to them and they take it, wow. What good have you, that's a good thing for you have to do to help somebody else. So David listened to Abigail and esteemed her to be noble and kind of like that Proverbs 31 type woman, because she also was looking out for her household. She was looking out for David, and she was looking out for the servants who served her. And she protected her husband who made a grave mistake. So in her going out of herself, she showed kindness. Now we can learn from Abigail, because David appreciated her kindness and he later rewarded her, because ultimately when she went back and she told Nabal, her husband, what had happened and what she did, he ended up having a stroke, heart attack type situation, and he ended up dying. And when he died, Abigail was left to fend for herself, but David came and took her in. But he took her in, he took care of her, and he helped her because of what she did for him. Okay? Now, David was showing kindness to Abigail by taking her in to his family and helping her and providing for her. Okay? Now, how do we apply this story to our lives? Okay? Number one, be kind without anticipation of getting anything back, but just because it's right to do. Y'all, we can't sit up here and just be kind, because if I'm kind to this one, then they're going to be kind to me. If I open the door for this one, then they'll open the door for me. Is that the expectation? Should be your anticipation that's the only reason why I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be kind because it's right to be kind. I'm going to help someone because it's right to help someone. You see what I'm saying? Not to get something in return. All right. Now, repay kindness with kindness. Number two, repay kindness with kindness. And that should be an automatic reciprocation. Is that if I'm kind to you, someone is kind to me, then I should be kind in return. Just because my heart is right, not just because they were kind. If no one else is ever nice to me, it doesn't mean I go around being angry. That means I still be kind, because God rewards me. God sees my kindness, and God will repay my kindness, because it's just right to do. Okay? Number three, God will remember your kindness. God will remember your acts of kindness. He will restore you. Look, he remembered Abigail. Abigail went in, took care of David's needs, made sure her husband and his team didn't get killed by David. And God, when she was in need, God rewarded her. God will reward your kindness. Okay? Remember, what you do for God is what's going to last. What you do for him. Because he is always kind to us. So why does it take us to be kind to someone else? Okay? Now, number one, I'm going to say it again. Number one, be kind without anticipation of getting anything back, but just because it's right to do. Number two, repay kindness with kindness. And number three, God will remember your kindness. All right, guys? Now, I pray, this is my prayer for you guys, that God will give you a heart of kindness, that God will remove any hardness in your heart and in your mind, that moves you to be unkind, that moves you to be harsh and cruel, I pray that God will remove that from you and heal those hard places and give you a heart of flesh that only God can mold and shape into his image. May kind acts be consistent in your life. I pray that you will exude kindness, that God will give you ways to be kind to somebody else and just be a kind person. Okay, so I hope that this video has encouraged your heart. We are in, like I said, this is lesson number 1, and we're going to get into 3 others that I hope will shape us into being kind people. Okay, all right guys, if this video has encouraged you, give it a thumbs up in it, liking it, so that other people will see it, hear it, and know how to be kind people. Okay, all right guys, until next week, be kind to yourself, be kind to someone else, and have a grace-filled week. I'll see you next week. Bye.